For 10 long years, the story goes, the greatest army in the world couldn't break down the walls of Troy. An entire decade of blood, bronze, heroes, and slaughter had ended in nothing but a bitter stalemate. But in the 10th year, the Greeks appeared to give up. They left a gift on the shores of their enemy. A colossal wooden horse. It was meant to look like a monument to their own defeat, but it was a lie. Inside this tribute to peace, an army's deadliest heroes were holding their breath, just waiting for the city to fall asleep. For a decade, the legendary city of Troy stood defiant. Its walls, which the myths claimed were built by the gods themselves, seemed impossible to conquer. An alliance of Greek kings had sailed across the Aegean to bring the city to its knees. The epic poems tell us they came to avenge the seduction and abduction of Helen of Sparta, the most beautiful woman in the world, by the Trojan prince Paris. This legendary insult is said to have launched 1,000 ships in a 10-year war, a conflict that would become the most famous in ancient history. The greatest warriors of the age, heroes like the mighty Hector of Troy and the near-invincible Achilles of the Greeks, fought and died on the plains before the city. Their duels became the stuff of legend. Yet for all the heroism, for all the sacrifice, the city did not fall. The Trojan War had ground to a bloody, frustrating halt. The Greeks were exhausted, their resources were low, and their morale was shattered. They tried everything: assaults, sieges, you name it, nothing worked. Troy was unbreakable. It was in this moment of despair, when brute force had failed, that a new kind of weapon was conceived. Not one made of bronze or iron, but of pure, brilliant cunning. This is the story of how a shift in strategy, from the battlefield to the mind, brought down the most fortified city in the ancient world. It's the story of a decade of war, decided in a single night. This is the story of the Trojan Horse, Greece's deadliest deception. 10 years is a long time to be at war. The Greek soldiers camped on the beaches outside Troy were homesick and weary. Their commander, King Agamemnon, was struggling to keep his alliance from falling apart. Inside the walls, the Trojans were just as tired. They were trapped in their own city, living under the constant shadow of the Greek army. The war had become a miserable battle of attrition, a test of who would break first. The problem was the city itself. Troy was a fortress. Its high, thick walls were a masterpiece of defense, a symbol of the city's power. Day after day, the Greeks would march toward those walls, only to be driven back by a storm of arrows and stones. The Trojans, safe behind their battlements, could afford to wait. The Greeks couldn't. They were an invading army on foreign soil, and time was running out. It was in this desperate climate that one man saw a different path to victory. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca. Odysseus wasn't the strongest of the Greek kings, nor was he the most feared in battle. His power was his mind. He was known as a master of words and a deviser of schemes, a trickster hero. While others relied on their brawn, Odysseus relied on his brain. He understood that if the walls of Troy couldn't be broken from the outside, they had to be bypassed from the inside. The legend says the goddess of wisdom, Athena, sparked the idea in his mind. The plan he came up with was audacious, almost insane. It was a gamble so huge that failure meant the complete destruction of the Greek army. The Greeks would pretend to give up. They'd pack up, burn their camps, and make a big show of sailing for home. But they'd leave something behind: gift, an offering to the goddess Athena, to ensure their own safe journey home. This offering would be a massive, magnificent wooden horse, a symbol the Trojans held sacred. The plan was to build it so large and impressive that the Trojans, bursting with pride and relief, couldn't resist bringing it into their city as a trophy. But the horse would be hollow. Hidden inside its belly would be the best of the Greek warriors, a small, elite force led by Odysseus himself. Their mission: wait until the city was drunk on celebration and fast asleep, then emerge, kill the sentries, and open the gates to the rest of the earth. Greek army, which would have secretly sailed back under the cover of darkness. The plan was set in motion. According to the story, the Greeks found their master craftsman in a man named Epius. Using fir planks from the sacred slopes of Mount Ida, he and his team supposedly built the colossal horse in just 3 days. It was a marvel, inspiring both awe and unease. On its side, an inscription read, "For their return home, the Greeks dedicate this thank offering to Athena." Now came the most dangerous part, choosing the men who would hide inside. This was a potential suicide mission. If the Trojans found them out, the men inside would be trapped and slaughtered. Only the bravest were chosen. Counts vary on the number, but somewhere between 30 and 50 of Greece's finest heroes are said to have climbed into the dark. It's a cramped belly of the beast. Among them, the legends place Menelaus, the Spartan king whose wife started the war. And of course Odysseus, the architect of the whole operation. With the heroes concealed, the rest of the Greek army put on their final performance. They torched their camp, sending smoke billowing into the sky as a sign of their departure. They launched their ships and sailed away, disappearing over the horizon. But they didn't go far. They just sailed to the nearby island of Tenedos and waited, hidden from Trojan eyes. They left one man behind, a crucial actor in this drama, Sinon. His job was to get captured by the Trojans and sell them the final, convincing lie. As dawn broke, Troy's watchmen stared from the walls in disbelief. The Greek camp was a ruin. The beaches were empty. And standing alone on the shore was the enormous wooden horse. The city erupted in celebration. 10 years of fear were over. They threw open the gates and streamed onto the plain, marveling at the strange, silent monument. They soon found the trembling Sinon, who played his part perfectly. He claimed the cruel Odysseus had chosen him as a human sacrifice, and he had barely escaped. When the Trojan king, Priam, asked about the horse, Sinon delivered the fatal lie. This part of the tale was most famously told centuries later by the Roman poet Virgil in his epic, the Aeneid asterisk. In Virgil's telling, Sinon explains that the Greeks built the horse too large to pass through the city gates because of a prophecy. If the horse were brought inside Troy, the city would become invincible and one day conquer Greece itself. The story was brilliant, played on the Trojans' pride and their desperate desire for the war to be over. But not everyone was convinced. The Trojan priest Laocoon rushed forward, frantically warning his people. He famously declared, "I fear the Greeks, even those bearing gifts." He hurled his spear into the horse's flank, and a hollow groaning sound echoed from within. For a moment, it seemed the warning might work. But then, in a moment of high drama from Virgil's poem, two monstrous sea serpents rose from the waves. They coiled around Laocoon and his two sons, crushing them to death. The Trojans took this as a terrifying sign. Laocoon had been punished by the gods for attacking a sacred object. All doubt vanished. The fate of Troy was sealed. Overjoyed, the Trojans tied ropes to the colossal horse. In another detail from Virgil's Aeneid asterisk, they had to tear down part of their own legendary walls to get it through the gates, the very walls that had protected them for a decade. They dragged the instrument of their own destruction into the heart of their city. That night, Troy celebrated like never before. The city was filled with feasting and wine, and as they danced around their silent wooden conqueror, the city finally fell into a deep, drunken slumber. In the dead of night, Sinon crept to the gates and lit a beacon, signaling the Greek fleet to return. Inside the horse, Odysseus knew the time had come. The hidden trapdoor opened and the Greek heroes descended into the sleeping city. They moved like ghosts, slitting the throats of the guards and swinging the main gates wide open. The full might of the Greek army stormed into Troy. The legend describes what followed not as a battle, but a massacre. The Trojans, caught by surprise, were cut down in the streets. The city that had stood for a decade was consumed by fire. By sunrise, Troy was a smoking ruin, its great walls breached not by force, but by a trick. The 10-year war was over. It's one of the most enduring stories ever told. But it raises a crucial question. How much of it is actually true? For centuries, Troy itself was thought to be a myth. But in the 1870s, an archaeologist named Heinrich Schliemann began digging at a site in modern-day Turkey. What he and later archaeologists found were the ruins of not one, but at least 9 cities built one on top of the other. One layer, known as Troy VIIA, shows evidence of a fiery and violent destruction sometime in the early 12th century BC. This time frame broadly aligns with the traditional dating of the war, and archaeologists have found arrowheads and other signs of conflict, suggesting a brutal end for the city. So, we have good evidence for a real city of Troy and a real war. But what about the horse? On this, the the archaeological record is silent. No physical evidence of a giant wooden horse has ever been found, and after more than 3,000 years, it's highly unlikely it ever will be. This has led historians to wonder if the horse was a metaphor. Some suggest the horse might have been a new type of siege engine, maybe covered in damp horse hides to protect it from fire. Another theory points to the god Poseidon, god of the sea, but also of horses and earthquakes. Perhaps a well-timed earthquake damaged Troy's walls, allowing the Greeks to get inside. And the story of a horse was a poetic way to describe this act of God. Or maybe, the story is simply a brilliant fable created to explain how the impossible was achieved. The Greeks valued cunning intelligence, what they called metis asterisk, as much as they valued bravery. The Trojan horse is the ultimate story of brains triumphing over brawn. The Trojan horse galloped out of myth and right into our modern language. Today, the phrase Trojan horse is a universal symbol for any threat disguised as something harmless. It's a concept that has proven incredibly durable, especially in cybersecurity, where a Trojan became the popular term for a malicious program disguised as legitimate software. The story is a timeless warning about pride and the danger of accepting gifts from your enemies. The fall of Troy wasn't just the end of a city, it was the birth of an eternal legend. It reminds us that victory doesn't always go to the strongest, but often to the cleverest. It's a chilling and unforgettable tale of how a supposed symbol of peace became the ultimate weapon, proving that the most dangerous enemy is the one you willingly invite inside your gates.